It's Wednesday, June 24th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. A jury convicts a St. John man of first-degree murder for the killing of 2 boys. The hefty price tag to keep Halifax harbor ferries afloat in the coming years.
After a few soggy June days, the Maritimes can look forward to more of a fair weather mix of sun and cloud tomorrow.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. A jury returned to a St. John courtroom this morning and convicted a 46-year-old man of first-degree murder. He was found guilty of stabbing 2 boys to death in an apartment in 2025. Our Avery McRae is at court. Avery, the jury didn't take a whole lot of time to make this decision.
Todd, less than 24 hours after jury deliberations began, they returned to the courtroom this morning with a verdict. Roman Commissioner stood in the prisoner's box with his eyes closed and his head bowed as the jury foreperson read aloud the verdict, guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. It was on the morning of January 29th last year that Roman Commissioner stabbed the 2 boys, aged 17 and 10 years old, to death before attempting to take his own life with the use of a nail gun at a St. John North End apartment. The victims' identities are protected under a publication ban, but the media was allowed to describe the case as one involving alleged domestic violence. Over the course of the 9-day trial, the Crown called 23 witnesses to the stand. That included multiple St. John police officers, the pathologist who conducted the autopsies of the boys, and Witness A, an ex-partner of Commissioner whose identity is protected by a publication ban. The Crown had told the court Commissioner was driven by vengeance. Commissioner was the lone witness to take the stand for the defense and testified he couldn't remember the morning the 2 boys died. During the trial, the jury heard and viewed a number of graphic images and content. That included body camera footage of the first arriving officers on the scene, as well as detailed photos of the shirts worn by the boys when they were killed. While neither the Crown nor defense would offer a comment following the verdict, St. John Police offered a statement thanking all those involved in finding the 46-year-old guilty.
This case has had a profound impact on the victims' family, their friends, and our entire community. While no verdict can undo the harm that has been done, accountability is an important step in recognizing that harm.
Following the verdict, the jury was discharged by Justice Daryl Stevenson, who commended them for their service. And Todd, this has been an emotional trial with difficult testimony. As the verdicts were read out loud, at least one juror could be seen wiping away tears. A first-degree murder conviction carries an automatic life sentence of 25 years. This matter will return to the court on August 13th for Commissioner's sentencing, and at that time, Todd, we are expected to hear victim impact statements.
All right.
Todd?
Thank you, Avery, from St. John Court in the Uptown this evening. There's been a major police investigation going on for days in a Moncton neighborhood, but the RCMP is not talking about it. CTV's Derek Haggett has uncovered some information.
Police vehicles, marked and unmarked, have been parked outside 2 Moncton homes since Monday, but no one seems to know why.
A large police presence, like unmarked cars and detectives, plainclothes police uniformed.
Members of the RCMP's digital forensics team also on hand, but police are releasing very few details about what's going on inside these Henry Street homes. An RCMP spokesperson says Kodiak Regional RCMP members are at this location as part of an ongoing investigation, and there is no threat to the general public. As of late this afternoon, no other information has been given, but the RCMP do say a news release is in the works. Neighbors say the police have been there before.
There's always calls of noise level or fights or stir down the street. It's pretty much a calm neighborhood here. Families, elder people, we're retired.
Several neighbors tell CTV News detectives canvassed the neighborhood yesterday looking for information on a man that has been missing since May. Around 12:20 today, the investigation was put on hold briefly when the Moncton Fire Department responded to a call of smoke in the attic. After around 5 or 6 minutes, firefighters left the building and the police investigation continued. I spoke with one woman today who didn't want to appear on camera. She told me she's relieved the police are here because they've been on the street too many times over the past few years. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
Online, a second person has been charged with a Pictou County man's murder. We have the details right now at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Nova Scotia's governing Progressive Conservatives have added another seat to the majority government. The Tories won the by-election race last night in the newly created riding of Cheticamp-Margary's Pleasant Bay. A victory for Conservative Claude Bourgeois, beating Liberal candidate Denis Cormier by 235 votes. New Democrat Trevor Poirier came a distant third. There are almost 4,000 registered electors in the riding, nearly 2,700 cast ballots. That makes for a turnout of around 69%. A stronger illicit drug supply in the Maritimes has medical professionals worried. CTV's Emma Convey spoke with experts in the field about how the situation is being handled.
We've heard a lot about the drug problems in the greater Moncton area lately, along with alerts in a number of counties in Nova Scotia, the latest in Cape Breton. In Halifax, Direction 180, a group in the city's north end that provides opioid treatment programs, says in the last few years, the need for their services has jumped.
They come to us and they can get started on treatment, and that's in the form of OAT, which a lot of people know kind of as methadone. And so these are medications that have been proven to be very effective. They're the gold standard for opioid use disorder. 400
people are registered with their service. They also operate the only supervised consumption site in the city, one of two in the province.
Certainly we see the demand for that service growing, absolutely. And so between that and then the treatment that we offer, we are happy to sort of provide care along the whole spectrum.
Halifax police say they aren't seeing opioids at crisis levels yet, but the drug unit here has been dealing with cocaine and crack cocaine for quite some time. The main worry for health officials is that this problem isn't going away.
What we're concerned about is that they may increasingly be stronger, more mixed, more unpredictable, and that can cause a lot of issues for people who use substances because even if they have a degree of tolerance, they may experience unintended effects.
And although naloxone is still the response for opioid overdoses, Muick says it could take multiple doses, and it doesn't work on these new drug cocktails.
We became aware in the Amherst area at the beginning of the month that there was signals that there was additional overdoses or reactions to the drug supply that were being experienced. And so from a public health perspective, we were concerned that this was impacting a larger group of people.
To that end, Dr. Muick says it's important to provide enough supports for those dealing with addictions, whether they're still using at the point they want to stop and during recovery. Emma Convey, CTV News, Halifax.
There's a look at uptown St. John right now, 21 degrees, 7 minutes after 6 o'clock. Let's get our first look at the weather. CTV meteorologist Kaylin Mitchell has been tracking the potential for severe weather in St. John, one of those spots.
Yeah, they'll need to be on their toes. They'll need to have a little bit of weather awareness because they could potentially get into a thunderstorm in about half an hour to 45 minutes in around the St. John area. Taking a look at things on radar and satellite right now, these thunderstorms sort of sparked off in through the state of Maine, but then drifted eastward and towards the southeast out of that state into the province of New Brunswick. So it's mostly been in the western parts of New Brunswick that have seen these thunderstorms so far, particularly into the southwest of the province, where occasionally there have been some severe thunderstorm warnings issued. Lots of lightning with these thunderstorms, especially with one that just made its way through St. Stephen. Some downpours as well. So if you get into one of those, visibility is going to be reduced. Want to watch for hydroplaning conditions on the roads. There's a thunderstorm of concern for St. John. So you can see slowly but surely making its way towards the city there. And like I said, within the next half an hour, that could be in the vicinity of St. John, and even a risk of a thunderstorm for Grand Manan within the next half an hour to 45 minutes. Piece of good news, these thunderstorms, is they are primarily being driven by daytime heating. So as we're losing that this evening, we should begin to see the thunderstorm activity weaken and diminish. Already, I'm noticing less in the way of lightning strikes, which is often a sign that these thunderstorms are beginning to not become as strong as they once were. As we're taking a look at things as far as the watches and warnings go, we can still see that much of the west and south of New Brunswick is underneath a severe thunderstorm watch. And we have a severe thunderstorm warning that's out for Charlotte County. So both Charlotte County and coastal Charlotte County because of that stronger thunderstorm in the southwest right now. In the watches and warnings, Environment Canada is saying that these thunderstorms could come in with some locally strong wind gusts. The downpours, which certainly look like they're there on radar, and even the potential for some hail. And of course, keep in mind that lightning is dangerous at any time. That's always the #1 hazard I'm concerned about for us here in the Maritimes. It's the lightning itself. So head inside, wait these thunderstorms out. You want to wait at least 30 minutes after that last rumble of thunder. And like I said, as we make our way through this evening, those are going to be coming to an end. As we take a look at current temperatures around the Maritime region, we can see a number of locations are sitting with temperatures in the high teens and low 20s, so a little bit cooler around Prince Edward Island, close to 16 degrees there right now. And some eastern areas of Nova Scotia with some temperatures between 14 and 19. Checking in on wind conditions, away from any of those active thunderstorms. The winds themselves fairly light, mostly out of the north and northwest right now, being sustained between 10 and 20 kilometers per hour. We're getting a few gusts reported between 30 and 40 kilometers per hour. I'll keep an eye on those thunderstorms. Todd, I'll bring you an update, and then, of course, we'll take a look at the extended forecast when I'm back a little bit later on. Very good. We'll see you in a bit.
Necessary repairs to Halifax's ferry fleet and its terminals are expected to cost nearly $45 million, a big price tag. But as CTV's Callum Smith tells us, there is support to spend the money to keep the service afloat.
A decade ago, Halifax increased its ferry usage by 58% during the Big Lift McDonald Bridge project, from 130 daily weekday trips to 206. And it kept that level of service ever since. But that increased demand on the fleet of 5 is catching up. Now, big repairs to both the vessels and terminals are on the horizon. A city staff report says the ferries need more than $20 million in repairs, while the 3 terminals are expected to need about $23 million. But additional assessments are ongoing. The city says delays in the Mill Cove ferry project also put additional strain on the Halifax terminal. The ferries, between 8 and 12 years old, are due for mandatory midlife overhauls planned to start in 2029. On average, 5,500 people use the ferries on weekdays, with weekend numbers ranging from 2,900 to 4,900. That's part of why locals and visitors who spoke to CTV today say the money is worthwhile.
That's a lot of money. Lot of money, but I think they need the ferry.
I think it's a top priority. The government spent all kinds of money on different things. Not to get too into bike lanes and so on and so forth. Yeah, so put some money into the ferry service and maybe upgrade them, maybe electric. I don't know, how that works, but yeah, I think it's a good dig.
And ferry service provides necessary foot traffic for businesses in Alderney Landing.
It's very important because many people pass for here, so it's a help for our business.
The report was to be debated by council yesterday, but that discussion was postponed to a future council meeting. Responding to ferry reliability concerns last month, Mayor Andy Fillmore said he's awaiting more information, including a separate third-party report that's reviewing the overall ferry service. That report is due to council in the fall. Callum Smith, CTV News, Halifax.
Another ferry service in our region is having work done. Ottawa is spending on infrastructure in North Sydney for the Newfoundland ferry. This comes as Marine Atlantic faces a possible worker strike and a challenge to its status as an essential service. Here's CTV's Ryan McDonald.
About $80 million was announced today for improvements to Marine Atlantic ferry service at the dock in North Sydney.
It's huge.
As vehicles were loaded onto the ferry outside, the Crown Corporation said the money being spent will help modernize the terminal property, improve loading and unloading capacity, and make the service greener and more efficient.
Dock extensions makes it easier for, to accept some of the challenges that we've had with climate change, to be able to connect our vessels when they arrive in port to electric power, to our grid.
But there is still the threat of a strike at Marine Atlantic. The union representing ferry workers has an application before the Canada Industrial Relations Board to reconsider its designation of the Newfoundland ferry as an essential service. Marine Atlantic officials wouldn't comment on the situation today, but others in the room did.
Growing up in a union family and now in government, I always believe that the best deals, the best approaches to moving things forward are at the bargaining table, and we'll let those processes run its course.
We asked whether bookings might be down these days, what with a potential labor stoppage still looming, but according to Marine Atlantic, the opposite is true.
we're above where we were at even last year. We surpassed those numbers.
I see the amount of traffic coming and going on a daily basis, both in the morning and the evening, so I believe the traffic is up.
Marine Atlantic says a lot of that has to do with the 50% rate reduction that started last summer. Meanwhile, a new ferry is coming in the fall called the Ile Rouge to help with capacity challenges.
That will, in essence, give us a 5-vessel fleet for a period of time, and we'll work with the Government of Canada to determine the next steps.
In addition to the money being spent on this side of the Cabot Strait, another announcement is set for tomorrow on the Newfoundland side of the water. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, North Sydney.
There will not be a significant jump in rents in New Brunswick. The province is sticking with a rent cap, limiting increases to no more than 3% year over year. CTV's Nick Moore has details.
The 3% rent cap has been in effect since February 2025. Today, the provincial government announced it will remain throughout the 2027 calendar year. David Hickey is New Brunswick's minister responsible for housing.
We see a long-term place in this province for a rent cap. Renters have said overwhelmingly, New Brunswickers have said overwhelmingly, that they want that predictability and stability out of the rent. The single biggest part of their monthly budget.
The New Brunswick Apartment Owners Association has previously said the cap prevents its members from managing rising costs and that some property owners may have to leave the business. The association did not reply to our request for comment today. Hickey said the government is striking a balance.
On one side, having the rent cap. On the other side, removing the HST on new multi-unit construction.
I think had they stopped the rent cap or increase that percentage, that would have surprised us.
Nicola Taylor of Acorn, New Brunswick says maintaining the cap is critical, but more needs to be done, naming examples such as a ban on fixed-term leases and no-fault evictions. A review of the Residential Tenancies Act is expected to be completed this fall.
We're hopeful that, it's going to bring some good changes because it hasn't been updated in over 50 years, and it doesn't reflect on the modern day changes or challenges that tenants face today.
As for the 3% rent cap, it will be subject to another review next May. Nick Moore, CTV News, St. John.
Consumers want better quality and more choice at the seafood counter. Nova Scotia wants to sell more of its catch and grow the industry. CTV's Jesse Thomas is on Cape Sable Island, where they unveiled a plan to do just that.
Here in Clark's Harbor, Nova Scotia, government officials, along with leadership from the seafood industry, gathered to unveil the province's new seafood sector strategy. It's a 3-year plan aimed at strengthening collaboration between the industry and government, but at the same time focus on growing what's described as one of Nova Scotia's most important economic sectors. The announcement was made at Sea Star Seafood's processing facilities, with Fisheries Minister Kent Smith laying out the details of the strategy that hopes will boost the seafood sector and the economy.
We all want the province to grow. We want the GDP to grow. We want businesses to grow, to hire more people, be more productive.
The strategy is built on 4 pillars: market and product innovation, industry growth and innovation, operational efficiency, and marketing. Those in the industry welcome the plan and say it comes at a critical time when companies are seeing a shift in consumer demand and innovation changes.
Often when we're working on the industry, we're focused on a different target than the government may be. We might be focused on 5 months or 6 months. What this does is this gives us a very clear 3-year target to try and get to.
For fish processors like Carrie Cunningham with Sea Star Seafoods, one of the biggest opportunities lies in innovation. The province will spend $1.5 million to launch the Seafood Innovation Hub to help accelerate research.
The efficiencies from the adoption of automation and AI and the rest gives us the people back. Our intention is to employ more people, not less.
Industry leaders say the strategy provides a roadmap and gets everyone on the same page. Success will be dependent on businesses continuing to grow and more Nova Scotia seafood reaching people's plates around the globe. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Clark's Harbor, Nova Scotia.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Well, moments ago, Canada wrapped up its 3rd and final group stage game with a loss against Switzerland. Let's go downtown to Halifax, where CTV national reporter Paul Hollingsworth has been watching the game with fans. Bit of a nail-biter, bit of a heartbreaker, Paul, but what's the reaction been?
Lots of disappointment and despair, Todd. I wish I had before and after videos for you and our viewers. I arrived here a couple of hours ago, and this joint was jumping. 300 people jammed into this downtown watch party. The building was literally vibrating with loud cheers. Switzerland goes up 2-0. It gets very quiet. Canada cuts the lead to 2-1. It became demonstrably excited once again, and then it was down to the wire. The Canadian team trying to get that tying goal, trying to find a way to make soccer history, trying to find a way to get their ticket punched to win their group and go ahead to the next round. It didn't happen, and just like that, this place started to empty out, and the excitement level sort of evaporated. However, Canada still has a chance to do things at this World Cup. We'll keep our eye on that going forward. But I can also tell you, Todd, with sports comes a page turn. Scotland plays Brazil at 7 o'clock, and these Scottish fans are starting to come in now, and they are absolute beauties. They are tuned up. They are having a good time. They're wearing their kilts. They're excited. So we might stick around and watch that as well, because it's an example of the World Cup action that keeps on keeping on. One match ends, another one starts up. A disappointing finish for Canada, to be sure, but still a successful World Cup for this team. A disappointing watch party for these fans, but perhaps they'll be back here in downtown Halifax with something better to celebrate in the near future. But in the meantime, Todd, we'll hang out and check out these Scottish fans who will also be cheering loudly tonight here in downtown Halifax.
Yeah, Scotland's kind of become the belle of the ball. There's certainly all the excitement in the States where they've been playing. Paul, briefly before we let you go, so Canada, it looks like they will move on to the next round, though.
Yeah. Correct. So they will play. Now, what happens is, for our viewers watching at home who have a hard time following the World Cup bracketing, it is hard to follow. They needed a win or a draw to win their round and keep their next games in Vancouver. By not doing that, they'll bounce on to the next round most likely, but they'll have to travel, play in Los Angeles, have fewer days rest. So it's a disappointment from that perspective, because it doesn't set them up to succeed as well had they won or tied this game.
Right. Okay, Paul Hollingsworth, downtown Halifax. Thanks for that, Paul. We'll take a break. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
This is the Campfire Conditions Report, brought to you by Pine Acres RV, where customers become friends. Conditions here are valid until 2 p.m. on June 25th. And campfires are currently allowed in the province of New Brunswick. And for the province of Nova Scotia, campfires are permitted between the hours of 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. Prince Edward Island, you're currently allowed to have a campfire, with domestic brush burning allowed between the hours of 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. Keep fires small and under control, and never leave a fire unattended.
A new piece installed at Fredericton's Beaverbrook Art Gallery is garnering attention and controversy. But that, CTV's Anna Madden tells us, is exactly what the gallery expected.
His Christ was a reflection of my life as an artist and also as a Christian.
Artist Andre Serrano is standing by his highly controversial art piece that shows a photo of a crucifix suspended in his own urine. The artwork has been the center of controversy for decades. In 2011, it was attacked by protesters while on display in France. And in New Brunswick, it continues to raise concerns.
If it was an image of your loved one or my loved one that was immersed in urine and displayed publicly for people to look at, there's a certain amount of shock there and of difficulty. And for Christians, this is our God, and this is an image of our God.
She's not alone in expressing distaste for Serrano's work. New Brunswick MP John Williamson took to Facebook to call out the display, saying the gallery was recycling controversy from long ago. But Serrano says the image reflects his religious identity.
I've been a Christian all my life. I was born and raised a Catholic. So you could say your His Christ is a religious work of art coming from Andre Serrano.
While Beaverbrook Art Gallery's executive director says the image is part of its focus on ecclesiastical art and that insult was not the intention.
Because an experience with art is such a deeply personal experience, it's really impossible for me to comment on any individual's response to any work of art.
But Mazarol says there are other religious works of art the gallery could have used.
If the goal is to launch a series that focuses on religious and ecclesiastical art, profaning the sacred isn't the way to accomplish this. Again, there's a dignity that needs to be upheld at every step of the way.
The piece, along with several others of Serrano's, will be on display at the gallery until the end of November. Anna Mandan, CTV News, Fredericton.
Still to come tonight, a midweek look at your weather. Kaylin Mitchell has the details following this commercial break. It's a beautiful, sunny and warm 23 degrees in Lunenburg on the South Shore. There's a live look right now. Quite a difference from what folks in St. John might be, well, maybe not seeing just yet, but certainly hearing. Kaylin Mitchell?
Yeah, it's certainly possible that there's some rumbles of thunder being heard in around the St. John area. There's a thunderstorm just down around the southwestern corner of that province right now. We continue to get some warnings issued with those thunderstorms in New Brunswick. So that's what we're going to begin with. Let's take a look at things on radar and just update you on where a few of the stronger storms are at the moment. One of them has popped up just in the vicinity of Woodstock, and that came along with a warning because along with lightning, these thunderstorms are producing some heavy downpours. And then there's that thunderstorm that I mentioned right down around the southwest. You can see that is passing, looks like just off towards the west of the city center of St. John. Graminan as well seeing a thunderstorm move by. I do expect that this will weaken as it makes its way over the Bay of Fundy, but in case it doesn't, there is a low chance that maybe it holds together and a thunderstorm arrives in the vicinity of the Annapolis Valley of Nova Scotia in about 30 to 45 minutes or so. So that's going to be ongoing for this evening. And parts of New Brunswick, of course, that have a thunderstorm move over are going to be adding to some of the rainfall totals that we saw with that rainy system that moved through Tuesday into Wednesday morning. Here's some rainfall reports from that system around the Maritime region. A large portion of the region picked up some totals between around 10 and 40 millimeters, a little bit lower than that for parts of the north of New Brunswick. And some areas picked up some higher rainfall totals, in some cases exceeded 50 or even 60 millimeters. And that included some communities down around the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick, as well as parts of the southwest of Nova Scotia. Now, taking a look at our forecast timeline, the showers, the risk of thunderstorms with them, that's going to be coming to an end as we make our way through this evening. Most of them should end by around 9-10 p.m. because they're being driven by our daytime heating. After that, during the overnight, it's a few clouds, some fog patches for the Maritime, so expect there to be a little bit of fog around to start the day on Thursday. Now, the fog will be dissipating as we move from the morning into the afternoon, and Thursday afternoon, mainly a mix of sun and cloud for the region. A low chance of a couple spotty showers in the west of New Brunswick for tomorrow, but for any given community, about a 20% chance. So winds in the forecast for tonight remain mostly out of the west and northwest. Tomorrow's winds a little bit more variable in direction around the region. Out of the east for northern areas of New Brunswick, between 10 and 20 kilometers per hour. Start out of the north for southern areas of New Brunswick, but then become easterly late in the day. Kind of out of the north for Prince Edward Island for tomorrow, for eastern areas of Nova Scotia, and then more out of the northwest into the southwest of Nova Scotia. Regardless of the wind direction, though, the winds tomorrow looking relatively light by our standards, sustained 10 to 20 with some gusts between 20 and 40. A lot of low temperatures tonight will be around the range of 11 to 15 degrees, a little bit cooler in the northwest of New Brunswick. Highs in the forecast for tomorrow for Edmundston, near 22, 21 at Campbellton, and near 20 degrees for Miramichi. Down through central and southern areas of New Brunswick, 23 for Fredericton for tomorrow and for St. John, and then 19 degrees for Moncton in the southeast. Prince Edward Island, a little bit cooler on Thursday. Most of the high temperatures between 15 and 17 degrees in that northerly wind. For Cape Breton tomorrow, the high temperatures mostly between 15 and 18, though between 13 and 16 degrees for Inverness County. Near 18, 19 degrees for communities on the north shore of Nova Scotia, and 17 to 20 degrees on the eastern shore. Highs near 20 for Amherst, 24 for Truro, and 24 degrees for the city centers Halifax and Dartmouth. The Annapolis Valley for tomorrow with high temperatures near 24. And on the south shore of Nova Scotia, Temperatures a little bit warmer, 25 for Liverpool and Shelburne, and then closer to 21 for Yarmouth and Barrington. Taking a look at the extended forecast through the end of this week and into the upcoming weekend. Showers right now for New Brunswick, developing during the day on Friday. Lower chance of showers on Saturday. Looking sunnier for Sunday, and temperatures warming up through the end of the weekend into the start of next week. There'll be a chance of showers on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, mix of sun and cloud. And for Nova Scotia in the forecast, coming up on Friday, some showers expected to begin to arrive late in the day. There'll be some showers Friday night, a few lingering into Saturday. After that, it's a mix of sun and cloud for Sunday. Temperatures warming up to Monday of next week. Chance of showers on Tuesday, then a mix of sun and cloud on Wednesday. And for Prince Edward Island in the forecast, we've got some late day showers for Friday. A few more showers passing through on Saturday. Temperatures a little bit cooler, but highs near 20 on Sunday with a mix of sun and cloud. 24 on Monday. Chance of showers on Tuesday of next week, and Wednesday with a mix of sun and cloud. Todd.
A stretch of sun would be nice. Okay, thank you. We will update the weather at the end of the show. Next, we'll talk about what's going on in the mayor's office in Halifax with a former deputy mayor. Stay with us.
With Aaron and Peter. Join us all this week for the $1,000 Minute with Atlantic Superstore.
Celebrating 40 years and giving you $200 just for playing this week.
The RCMP is investigating the office of the mayor of Halifax over financial irregularities after the city's Auditor General saw some items that he described as being, quote, past his comfort zone. Lisa Blackburn is working as a radio talk show host, a longtime broadcaster, and two-term Halifax City Councillor who also served as deputy mayor. And she's in Beaverbank. Good to see you.
Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Do you ever recall hearing a city AG use the term past his comfort zone?
That's the first time I heard that. That was very carefully chosen language, I think it would be the best way to put it. So certainly that signals to me the seriousness under which the Auditor General's office takes the matter. And, you know, I think it sets the tone for what has taken place and the investigation that's now following.
Yeah, based on what you know about City Hall and the inner workings, Lisa, what's your impression of an investigation? You know, there's some thought that, okay, perhaps this was an oversight in the office, or could there be something more serious here?
Sure. So my understanding is that this all evolved at the request of senior staff who saw some things that they didn't think were right, and they were the ones that brought it to the attention of the Auditor General. So, you know, the Auditor General, certainly that's what they do. They take suggestions for places to investigate. I remember as a councillor being asked for a list of things that I thought needed a closer look by the Auditor General. So it's certainly not uncommon for senior staff to recommend that an investigation or, you know, that a report be done into something. So, right. You know, I think that is common, and I think people need to understand that that does happen. But the message that we received at the Audit and Finance Committee earlier this week was certainly one that I never heard as a councillor with the entire 8 years that I sat around that table.
The AG mentioned 2 invoices for legal services that were submitted and paid for. The mayor did make the point that he did repay those. What's on the line here? Is public trust at risk?
Oh, for sure. Anytime that you have a situation where police entities are brought in to investigate a municipality or any level of government, that is certainly something that is going to chip away at trust. This mayor especially is in a bit of a precarious position because this is what he ran on: transparency and accountability. And so that, you know, certainly is going to, I think, mean that some voters are going to have their trust shaken by this. Now, the other piece, too, that I think is very necessary to point out is that This is a very new mayor's office, as is the case when new mayors come in. They have their own staff. Now, you know, the last mayor, when he left, Mayor Savage, a number of his staff were actually of retirement age and retired. So that did necessitate a full-scale look at the office and, of course, what staffing would be needed to support the mayor in his upcoming term. So, you know, none of that raises any red flags in my opinion. But yeah, I think it's, you know, also a case of you got to know the process and you got to follow the process. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, that's what's come to light here, that many of the processes just weren't followed.
Yeah, and I think you were alluding to the $90,000 that was spent for HR issues and staffing levels within the office. But let me ask you this. The city just raised taxes to the number around 10% in the city. Then the mayor's office, the mayor spends $14,000 to have a speech written, likely the state of the city speech. Is there not anyone within the city's communications office or within the mayor's office who could do that kind of thing?
And I guess that is the greater question. My understanding, the previous mayor would work on his own speeches with his chief of staff and didn't use an outside speechwriter. But you know, everybody is going to do things their own way. Perhaps speechwriting is not something that is a strength of anybody in that mayor's office. So, you know, certainly there are definitely times when you need to go outside to get goods and services. But again, there's a process that needs to be followed. And I think what the Auditor General has revealed is that that process wasn't followed at all, or was half followed. Yeah. Another piece, too, that I think folks need to understand is that this is the very first year that the mayor's office has been a separate line item in the budget. I think traditionally the mayor's office and those costs fell under the CAO's department. But my understanding is that this was the first year that it was a separate line item, and they were completely responsible for their own, you know, finances within that office. So, of course, you know, there is a bit of a learning curve there that will come with that.
I'll finish up with this question. As somebody who now sits on the outside looking in, especially as a radio show host, there's plenty of discord in council chambers. Some might call it disarray, perhaps dysfunction. What do you see when you look at this council?
Well, I see a lot of people that are trying to do the very best that they can for their communities. And I see them coming up against walls time and time again, and they're getting frustrated. I do sympathize with the folks on council that are trying to make a difference and trying to, you know, make sure that the municipality it's transparent, it's accountable. And you know, me personally, I don't know if I would be happy if I was on council right now. The 8 years that I served, it was a much different vibe, not so much adversarial, and I do sort of see that in a lot of the communication that comes out from both councillors and the mayor's office. Yeah. It is disappointing because we're all playing for the same team.
Lisa Blackburn, thank you for your insight. We will leave it there. Certainly appreciate you offering us some of your time today.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Let's take a look at medical headlines. There's a new number for Nova Scotians to book vaccine appointments in the province. CTV's Amanda Debison has the details in tonight's edition of The Lifeline.
Nova Scotians can now book many vaccines by calling 811. Those publicly funded vaccines include COVID-19, influenza, RSV, shingles, and meningococcal B, to name a few. Vaccine appointments can now be booked by calling 811, and as always, through a primary care provider or online. The province says the previous vaccine booking line will continue to be available for Nova Scotians who need to book other matters, like a COVID-19 test. A study on COVID-19 vaccine effectiveness has finally been published after being blocked from a U.S. government health journal. The vaccine was found to be about 55% effective against COVID-19 associated hospitalizations and reduce COVID-19 related trips to emergency departments and urgent care clinics by 50%. That's according to the study published by JAMA Network Open. The findings are not particularly surprising. Researchers have repeatedly found that COVID-19 vaccines work. But the paper drew public attention after Trump administration political appointees decided not to run it in a CDC publication. Finally, new research suggests exposure to PFAS during pregnancy may affect a child's health. The so-called forever chemicals are widely used and found at low levels throughout the environment. A study of a Swedish community with unusually high exposure in its water supply found children who had significant exposure in the womb were more likely to develop asthma. But researchers emphasize the link was only observed in the highest exposure level, not at the typical everyday levels most people encounter. To limit exposure, experts say you can install a water filter, avoid heating food or liquids in plastic containers, and replace non-stick pans with stainless steel, cast iron, or ceramic cookware. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for The Lifeline.
In our business report tonight, the Dow Jones ended the trading day up 182 points. And this is part of the reason why. One of the biggest memory chip suppliers in the world shared its results today. BNN Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez has the earnings from Micron.
It's been called a blowout quarter for Micron, with revenue up 346% year over year. Companies like Amazon and Apple, who are building data centers, can't get enough memory chips. They are in short supply. That led Micron to $41 billion U.S. in revenue for its latest quarter. And the company predicts its next quarter will be even better. Micron's chips are used in everything from phones and cars to computers. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 70.26. West Texas Intermediate down over $2 to 70.34. Western Canadian Select down over $1 to 59.32. And the TSX lost 191 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
All right, Kayla Mitchell is on the weather deck where it looks fairly bright, but I know we're going to talk about thunderstorms in New Brunswick. So why don't you bring us up to date on that, and then I've got a question for you here.
Yes, we still have some severe thunderstorm watches ongoing through parts of New Brunswick, and occasionally some warnings coming along with any thunderstorms. My recommendation is if there is some thunder or lightning in your area, just head inside, wait it out. You want to wait at least 30 minutes after that last rumble of thunder. In general, though, those thunderstorms should be coming to an end a little bit later this evening. I would say we should see greatly diminished thunderstorm activity by 8, 9, 10 p.m. because a lot of this is being driven by daytime heating.
Okay, so would you expect them to move through the region, fairly swiftly?
They're moving pretty good, Todd. Yeah. They're headed towards the southeast at about 45 kilometers per hour. It's actually good news that they're moving along because they are packing some downpours, so you don't want that heavy rain sitting over one particular area for too long. Just as a heads up, a few of the thunderstorms have moved over the Bay of Fundy. I'm not expecting them to, but there is a low chance that they could hold together and maybe reach parts of the southwest of Nova Scotia, the Annapolis Valley, over the next hour or two. But they typically do weaken a fair bit once they get over the Bay of Fundy waters. All right, let's take a look at a rear picture for tonight. No thunderstorms in this picture. It's just a beautiful, very tranquil shot sent in by Marianne Cullip from Belmont, Nova Scotia. I want to thank Marianne very much for taking the time to share that with us. The Belmont area for tomorrow, likely to be some fog around first thing in the morning. That'll dissipate. And then after that, a mix of sun and cloud and high temperatures near 22 degrees. Our day planner for tomorrow across the Maritime region does feature partly cloudy conditions and some fog first thing in the morning. Morning temperatures mostly around the low to mid single digits. But as I mentioned, moving from the morning into the afternoon, the fog dissipates dissipates. It's a mix of sun and cloud for the region. Temperatures tomorrow remaining a little bit cooler for Prince Edward Island, parts of the east of Nova Scotia, areas of Cape Breton, where some of the highs could top out closer to the mid-teens. Much of the rest of the Maritime Zone can expect some high temperatures approaching the low to mid-20s. A little bit of a light wind for tomorrow, and then after that, there will be showers that return for parts of the region on Friday. Let's find out what's ahead on Your Morning Atlantic.
Thursday on Your Morning Atlantic, getting ready to give it their all.
The Special Olympics Nova Scotia Summer Games are just around the corner. We'll learn more about the event and the 900 participants.
Start your morning with us Thursday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Then at 6, we will talk about lessons learned as separatist talk continues in Canada. We'll look at 10 years of Brexit from a Canadian perspective, a Canadian who had a front row seat. That's tomorrow at 6. Finally for us tonight, Lionel Messi may be making his case as soccer's greatest of all time with a stunning cup run so far. But in Kansas City, another Messi is winning fans because of just how good he is at munching weeds along the Missouri River. Here he is, born just before the tournament. Messi the GOAT has been dressed in Argentina's jersey as his namesake racked up 5 goals in 2 matches. Those performances reignited a familiar debate over who's the greatest player of all time. The GOAT, right? Well, Lionel the GOAT is making a case for that. That will do it for us tonight. Bruce Frisco is here at 11:30. Hope to see you tomorrow night at 6. I'm Todd Battis. Good night.